Yes. Testing. Sitaram and Hariom, friends and relatives, would like to welcome you all to this, our fourth night of Satsang, on the occasion of the dehant of my father, Pundit Deonarine Maharaj. We get this opportunity to listen to the great words of wisdom of our tradition. Tonight, I'd like us to welcome Hamerajh from Chinmaya Mission, and I'm sure we're going to leave our satsang tonight with things to think about and hopefully change our lives for the better. Hariom Hamerajh.
Meditation on the Kapitajambu palasada bhakshitam Umasutam shoka vinashakarinam Namami Vigneshwara pankajam Vande Ganapati Vegana Vinashana He Lambodara Gajanana Vande Ganapati Vigana Vinashana He Lambodara Gajanana Riddhi Siddhi Ke Data Tumoho Riddhi Siddhi Ke Data Tumoho He Shashi Shekhar Nandana He Shashi Shekhar Nandana Vande Ganapati Vigana Vinashana He Lambodara Gajanana Riddhi Siddhi Ke Data Tumoho Riddhi Siddhi Ke Data Tumoho He Shashi Shekhar Nandana Vande Ganapati Vigana Vinashana He Lambodara Gajanana He Lambodara Gajanana Jai Jai Ganapati Gajanana He Lambodara Gajanana Jai Jai Ganapati Gajanana He Lambodara Gajanana Jai Jai Ganapati Gajanana He Lambodara Gajanana Gajanan Swami Ki Jai Isharade Ma Isharade Ma Ajnanata se hame tar de ma Isharade Ma Isharade Ma Ajnanata se hame tar de ma मुनियों ने समझे गुनियों ने जाने वेदों की भाषा पुराणों की वाणी हम भी तू समझे हम भी तू जाने विद्या का हमको अधिकार दे माँ इशार दे माँ इशार दे माँ अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ हमें तार दे माँ सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा. Meditation on the feet of the Guru, your own Guru Mantra you take in your own mind, and whatever the ideal of the Guru represents to you. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnuhu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurut Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva. Try to bring all the thoughts of what your guru represents to you, the knowledge of the scriptures, where we are supposed to be resting. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Mama Guru Deva, Mama Guru Deva, Mama Guru Deva, Tava Guru Deva, Tava Guru Deva, Mama Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. Meditation in the form of Hanumanji. Manojavam marututulya vegam Jitendriyam buddhimatam varishtam Vatatmajam vanurayutamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye. Meditation on Shri Ram. Om Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaye Pataye Namaha. Jaya Ram Sita Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Shri Ram Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Jaya Rama Sita Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Mangala Bhavanaya Amangalahari Dravahu Sudasarata Ajeda Vihari Jaya Rama Sita Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Bolo Rama 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 Raja Rama 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 Jaya Rama 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 Sita Rama 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 Siyavar Ramachandra ki jai. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. We're joining a chanting of the Bhagavad Gita starting from chapter 2 verse 11. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Asochanan Vasochastvam Prajnavadam Shabashase Gatasuna Gatasunshcha Nanusochanti Panditaha Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Natvevaham Jatunasam Natvam Neme Janadipa Nachaivanna Bhavishyama Sarve Vayam Ata Param Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Dehi nosminyata dehe Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara Tata dehantara praptir Dirastatra namuhyati Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkada Agama pahino nitya Tamsatikshasva bharataha Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Yam hi na vyatayantyete Purusham Purusharshava Samadukka Sukham Dhiram Somrtatvaya Kalpate Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nasato Vidyate Bhavo Na Bhavo Vidyate Sataha Ubayorapi Drishtontaha Tvanayostatvadarshibhihi Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Avinashitu tadvidhi Yena sarvamidam tatam Vinasham avyayasyasya Nakaschit kartum arhati Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Antavanta ime deha Nityasukta sharirinaha Anashino prameyasya Tasmat yujyasva bharataha Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Ya enam veti hantaram Yaschainam manyate hatam Ubautau na vijanitaha Nayam hanti na hanyate Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Na jayate mriyate va kadachit Nayam bhutva bhavita vanabhuyaha Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano Na hanyate hanyamane sharire Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Veda vinashinam nityam Ye enam ajam avyayam Katam sa purusha partha Kam gatayan tihantikam Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Vasamsi jirnanyata vihaya Navani grannati naroparani Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani Anyani samyati navani dehi Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nainam chindanti sashrani Nainam dahati pavakaha Na chainam kledayantyapo Na sochayati marutaha Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Achedyoyam adhayoyam Akledyo shosha evacha Nitya sarvagatastanur Achaloyam sanatanaha Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. We'll join in one Krishna bhajan and then we'll go into our general topic for today. Jai Krishna Hare Shri Krishna Hare Dukhiyo ko dukha dur karo Jai 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 Krishna Hare Jai Krishna Hare Shri Krishna Hare Dukhiyo ko dukha dur kare Jai 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 Krishna Hare Jab चार तरफ अंधियारा हो आशा का दूर किनारा हो और कोई न केवल हारा हो फिर तू ही बेरा पार करो. Jai 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 Krishna Hare. You know why this song is very beautiful? It says, when in four directions I see darkness, as if there's no other hope in my life, I could turn to you. And that's why that prayer, Tumeva Mata Chapita Tumeva Tumeva Bandhu Chasaka Tumeva, that prayer actually is one of the best prayers in Hinduism, because God, you are my mother, you're my father, you're my friend, and you're my relation. Because ultimately, God is the ultimate father of all. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I am the father and I am the mother of the entire creation. I says, so he says, when I have nowhere else to go, when I have nobody else to depend on. And it's a truism in life also, where there'll be times in life that even though people may be very close to us, there are times that we feel like we have nobody. And then there's a altar at which we need to offer everything, which is not supposed to only be at that time. But sometimes we tend to depend on things of the world for our happiness. And that is also our cause of sorrow as well. So we say, Lord, because I'm turning to you now, because I expect you to give me light in my time of darkness. And you see, if you light that same light, right, that means the same thing only. Whenever we light that lamp, right, whether or not any puja is done to the text itself, it represents God lead me from darkness to light. And you have to see how I start katha without finishing the bhajan. Om asato ma sadgame, right? Om asato ma sadgame. And that's all, eh? Lead me from asat, lead me from which is untrue to that which is true. So today I eating junk food. Today I eating all the food that fried, and I eating macaroni, and I eating late in the night, and I'm not exercising, right? That is some level of asat. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, certain times and certain things are given for eating, or in the lifestyle that is prescribed for us as per our tradition, or for those people who would have experimented with Saijan and they realize, well, when you eat Saijan, it's better for you than eating, or when you eat Saijan or Baigan. I just find that rhyming, right? When you eat those two things, it's better for you than eating burger. I'm laughing because I know some people who are a burger still today, right? Yeah. So it's, and nothing is wrong with having something in between, but it's a lifestyle that is being spoken about. And that's where in the beginning of a Hindu's morning, right? And today my topic is a general topic as guided by the members of the home. Kadagre Vasite Lakshmi. So in the morning time, I see Lakshmi in my palms. What will be the vision of life of somebody that sees God directly in front of them when they get up in the morning? And that's where in a Hindu's life, and many times we may fall away from that. And because the pace of life picks up with us sometimes. But what is supposed to happen, that's why all these celebrations are very, very good. I tell you, like even Pitra Paksha, I enjoy Pitra Paksha like anything. Because it's really a time to sit down and reflect on where we have come from, where we are going, how did we end up here, what is the value system. And though, yes, of course, values are only meant for chastening the personality and then leading us to question and then eventually realize God. But the values still have a place, and the values have a source. And somebody who doesn't know their roots doesn't know where they're coming from, and also doesn't know where they're going. And it's interesting why I tell you that 14 days, when you really assess who has made contributions to who you are, and the debt, the rin, right, that you owe to, so the tradition speaks about 5 rins, right? But the rin that you owe towards your parents is phenomenal only. And this is particularly important in a time when people of our generation see it not as necessary to keep connection with parents. That also has its other side, which parents also need to know that they can't totally depend on the children, and they also cannot put their own superimpose all their dreams and aspirations on the child. But it's still the bond of family is one of the bonds that gives us the structure for fulfilling all duties towards a wider society. So when we remember our ancestors, and that's also something that I think that we don't speak about our ancestors enough. And I'll tell you, there was one lady in the village by me where I grew up, and the lady didn't have much. But anybody's birthday, she will wrap a pear drax. You know the Christmas pear drax with the little screw top? She wrap it in a napkin, and I can still clearly see that napkin. And she bringing it, and she walking slow, slow, slow. And she say, when is your birthday? And on a Christmas, right? On a Christmas, she will bring a bigger bottle because everybody in the house need to get. But if it's a handkerchief, and think about the culture, what that teaches you about living as part of a society. So it's not what she had, but it's where she did it. So there was a retired principal from the village there himself. He was a Roman Catholic guy. And why I bring up the concept of Roman Catholic is that we need to understand that the cultural undertones that we practice, though it has a spiritual basis, it is not impractical in how we live. So he's a Roman Catholic guy. He's a senior person in the Roman Catholic Church. And whenever he passes by that house, he spoke at her funeral about that. He said, even if I have to get a hard piece of roti that she made at 7 o'clock in the morning, that piece of roti I will get. And I will eat that roti with as much appreciation and love if it is a 7-course meal that I was given. So, if we just compare that, right, to the verse in the Bhagavad Gita where it says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yo Me Bhaktya Prayachati, Bhagavan is saying, you offer me a fruit, you offer me a flower, you offer me a drop of water or a leaf. Any of those things, and I accept it once, is offered with love. So one question that I am asking here, in this bhajan, what is there to surrender? When you tell the Lord, right? When you tell the Lord, it's like Draupadi is there, right? And Draupadi is holding on to her sari in the Mahabharata war, right? And she's holding on, and only when she lets go and she calls the Lord, right? Fully, the Lord's come. And that's where, in the part of bhakti, close relationship is required. And that's why Ishta Devta is a very important thing. Your Ishta Devta, and two things are there. There's Kula Devta. So the Kula Devta is your family deity. So in your family, you sit down on a regular basis and you, in Srinagar language, you say puja. You worship some form of deity that is close to bring the family together in prayer. But there's also your own cherished deity where you have a personal relationship with. So that deity becomes a part of your life. It's just like how you have a sibling as being part of your life. Any particular thing, and in Mumbai, I saw this very, very nicely. Not in Mumbai, in Banaras. When I was living in Banaras, there was a girl going to become married in one of the families who were living for like 60 years in Varanasi. And the first invitation for the wedding goes to who? They carry it to Lord Shiva. They carry it and they rest it by the altar, and Lord Shiva accepts the invitation, and then they go from there. Because you actually, and so in the construct of doing that, you have a physical act which is mentally saying, I'm placing the Lord in front of me before I do anything I do. And it's the same concept behind Pitra Paksh. At this period of time, I put aside all other things and I think about what is supposed to be the value system that I am supposed to be carrying as per my tradition and as per my culture. So the song says, "Tu chahe to sab kuch kar de." It says, Shri Krishna, anything that you want to do, you could do. And this talks about the omnipotence of God. Means God is all powerful. So we can't be praying, God, please do this. So please get that done. And then as long with that as well, we need to remember that no is also an answer. Many times things that we ask for are not necessary. Tu chahe to sab kuch kar de, vish ko bhi amrit kar de. Visha means poison. Amrit, nectar. If you want, you could turn poison into nectar. जो भी तेरा ध्यान करे by meditating on your form. तू चाहे तो सब कुछ कर दे, विष को भी अमृत कर दे, पूर्ण कर दे सबकी आशा, जो भी तेरा ध्यान करे, जो भी तेरा ध्यान करे. जय 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 कृष्ण हरे, जय कृष्ण हरे, श्री कृष्ण हरे. दुखियों को दुख दूर करे. जय 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 कृष्ण हरे, जय 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 कृष्ण हरे. In finishing this bhajan, we are asking for one thing. We are asking Bhagavan Krishna to give us the vision that we are supposed to have when we look at the Bhagavad Gita or when we look at life generally. If I take out these glasses, right, I could hardly see anybody's faces. So I need this thing to correct my vision, right? And many times the way we see things is the only way to see things. And the perfect example is the example of the 699. When one person is standing from this side, they are seeing the 6, and one person standing from that side, they are seeing the 9. And at home, Jai Ram. Most times that's the case. That you are your sibling, they are seeing one way, and you are seeing one way. And sometimes you can't see eye to eye. But what is supposed to be the vision of life? Very interesting question that I want to ask. The first verse we chanted, right? And I just want to give you what the vision of the Bhagavad Gita says. I know that is not the topic as per our discussion, but I just go in, of course, a little bit. Speaking on vision, Dehi nosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jada tata dehantara prapte didas tatra muhyati. Oh, this one. Asochanam vasochastvam prajnavanam shabashase gatasu nagatasuncha nanu sochanti panditaha. The vision of the Bhagavad Gita when Shri Krishna speaks, right? The first time Shri Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Asochan and vasochastvam. That for no reason at all, you should be grieving. Nothing happens in life that you should lose your cool. In Trini language, you be cool like Gokul. And I tell you this honest thing, right? I have seen this in Swami Prakashananda. I tell you, the people came in the ashram and bandits, etc., whatever, the morning, right? And at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? He realized whatever happened, he just sit down back on he said, well, what to do? Them had them disposition, we have we disposition. We had to keep we disposition, them had to give them disposition. And he sit down on the Vidya Mandir hall and he waiting for the police to come. He said, we had to report it, what to do. That is what we could do, and that is it. And that's where we join in today's topic. Today's topic deals with sangha. And sangha means, I tell Harishan before, today's topic deals with S's. S's in scriptures. Because after consideration, I would have discovered about 6 or 7 S's in scriptures that are very fundamental towards our understanding of life and our vision of life. Whether it's at the empirical level, how we interact with our family, or how we interact in our job, or how we interact with the concept. And we are not here at this point in time, we're not even discussing what is our concept of moksha. But even our concept of moksha depends on those S's as well. Sangha. There's a very nice statement that I would have heard the old people say growing up. Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. And your association is probably one of the most important things. There's 2 things. There's a physical association and also there's a mental association. And if you see yourself today, they are a part of both of those things. And I tell you, in growing up, I was to hide behind them Baba. Them anyway they have satsang and puja and thing and their prayers and thing. I go and sit down and do prayers with them. Watch them 2 hours prayers, 3 hours prayers, traveling down to Pinal, Devi, 9 o'clock in the night, somebody to come to pick me up after the prayers. Because I just wanted to be with them Baba them. because that was the sangha that I found myself in at that point in time, right? So that sangha led to some desire to become a Baba, to perform puja and Om Shri Ganesha and Swaha, etc. Right? And then afterwards, I went to India. If I the only know what a course in India was, I was going. But I spent, and it's good to be honest also, and I spent time there. But that sangha led to a deeper appreciation of the esoteric aspects of religion, which is not seen in the everyday discussion. So, and it's a very simple thing. If you want to become a doctor, you associate with doctors. If you want to become a businessman, you associate with businessmen. So one of the most important things is that wherever we are today is a result of some past action. And wherever we want to be is a result of where we associate our thoughts. And I tell you, the world has a way to bring, well, that's if you're at the sadhak level and your mind isn't as strong, but the world has a way to bring all sort of thoughts towards you. And whether you are able as a sakshi in Jnana Marga in the Ramana Maharishi tradition, Ramana Maharishi will say, sit and see, be the sakshi of the thoughts. So you're seeing the thought coming of anger, the thought coming of hunger, the thought coming of greed, the thought coming of lust, the thought coming of compassion. But I am just looking at all those thoughts, and I'm not disturbed at all by the thoughts. And this sort of mental awareness in today's management, self-awareness, brings a lot of centering of the personality. That one capacity to look at your thought and see the substratum of the thought can help us turn back to the substratum. And that's where, one of the things that I remember, for those of us who know Vedanta well, there's this diya here, right? So the diya is the name of this clay object that has some utility purpose. But if we take away the oil from the diya and we take away the wick from the diya, the clay in essence is only, this object in essence is only clay. And at the root of Vedanta studies, at the root of each and every aspect of the creation is existence. So, this exists, this exists, this mass exists. Imagine in a mass, right? You may say the mass exists, and I'm not going to look at the name and form of the mask and how it's choking me when I wear it, but I'm going to look at the very substratum of the mass, which is the existence principle, which is the source of the entire creation, which I am connected to at a fundamental level. So at any point in time, you are able to go to the very substratum of your thoughts itself. So if your sangha, if your association, first, and that is not the highest level of jnana, but if your association is as a sakshi, where I am just observer. Mommy and daddy fighting in the house. I am just an observer. Let her fight. Abhay and Harshan fighting. Let her fight. I just observing. These two people quarreling and work. Me are taking no side, Baba. I just an observer. This party and that party. Of course, there are times when we take particular roles because it's important for us. But too often, we get ourselves involved in things that doesn't concern us. And the mind itself is a flow of thoughts. And we allow our thoughts to take us on is like a flow of water is running down the stream. And we jump in the stream and we then go with the stream also. When it is that we are supposed to just look at the thoughts and allow it to pass by. And that is one of the sadhanas that Ramana Maharshi identifies. But more important than that, sangha is refined, sangha is understood in satsanga. What is sat? Sat is truth. Sangha is gathering. What is satsanga? What is satsanga in the Ramayana context? Anybody with satsanga in the Ramayana context? What you'll consider, if you think about the word satsanga and you think about the Ramayana, what comes to mind primarily or initial stages? Hanuman and Bishan, the meeting of Hanuman and Bibhishan. Why would you say that? Why would you say the meeting of Hanumanji and Vibhishan brings the term Satsanga to mind? Okay, so okay, a meeting of like souls on the holy path, right? If that's the definition of satsang, right? I just want to bring our minds to something at this point in time, right? Do we need a physical space for satsang? Do we need a temple for satsang? Do we need a hall for satsang? Do we need food for satsang? Do we need musical instruments for satsang? What is required for satsang? There's a genuine desire to speak about what is the truisms behind the universe. Do we need to belong to the same religion for satsang either? The word peace comes 72 times in the Quran. Is the Quran a text that talks about war? But so the concept of satsang somewhere along the way became an expression of a social, cultural, religious thing. But if you look at Hanumanji's and Vibhishan's meeting, right, as if we are using that as our benchmark at this point in time of the Rama and Satsanga, they were both alone. They didn't have anything. Their conversation was based on God. Their conversation wasn't based on themselves. And they both supported each other. In that context, we have to be mindful of if we carry out satsangs on a regular basis with those who are close to us. And I drive in from here to Port of Spain and taking some section of the Ramayana and discussing it is satsang only. In this also, this is a conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. So that is the prerequisite for satsang. What you need is you need a speaker and you need a listener. I tell you, there are some very nice sections in the Bhagavatam where the Sanat Kumars are there. And at one point in time, one of them will speak and the next one will listen. The next one will speak and this one will listen. So the idea of satsang really, of course, this type of environment has its place because it's supposed to also raise more fundamental questions. Some of those questions are supposed to be, who am I? Where have I come from? So who am I? I am Hamerajh. Where I come from Makbeen. But that is at one level. Now that's a very superficial thing also. Where was Hamerajh? Okay, so where's my age boy? 38, somewhere around there. I think so. Right? Somewhere around there, right? But where was I 38 years from before today? That's a very important question, right? And let me say the life expectancy is 76 years, right? Where will I be 36 years from now? That's a very fundamental existence question. And George Harrison of the Beatles, when he went to India and he came back, he said the very fabric of Indian's culture is designed to ask these type of questions. Next question, right? So, the questions that satsang is supposed to ask. Who are you? So, I'm the son of this person, somewhere down in South, Hadbag in Williamsville, whatever, right? But that was a relationship I started less than 40 years ago. But what was my relationship prior to then? Where was I prior to then? And where would I be in 40 years' time? So is that my primary relationship or is it a secondary relationship? And at some point in time, it has to become your secondary relationship. And your primary relationship has to be with whatever you consider to be the source of the creation. Because that is where you have manifested from. And that is from where you will return. So, who am I? Where am I going? How do we answer that question of where am I going? That where am I going question depends on karma. So, in karma, there's punya karma and then there's papa karma. Punya karma means noble deeds. Papa karma means negative deeds. You buy incense. I like this example too bad. Swamiji example. You buy incense and the incense is coming from Indonesia. In Indonesia, there's child labor, right? So child labor is being used to process your incense that is coming from Indonesia. When the truck driver, he's not a Hindu. So the fella eating the corned beef and even going down the road, right? So he coming down the road, and then he's burning gas also coming down the road, right? You are lighting your incense and offering it to Hanumanji, right? The karma for that incense, right? That one pack of incense that comes from child labor there, then he may have eaten something that is because you demanded that, it required that. You are burning fossil fuels, which is destroying the environment. But when we burn the incense, we have the feeling that holier than thou. And that's where every single action is colored in some way with some level of papa. You feel really, right? You should see when we pick in flowers sometimes and we in a hurry, right? You see this so? And I see it before even my own personality. I pick in, right? And I will not break like this. I yank it like this. And then when I say, wait now. You feel the Lord really need, right? Me to yank out the life of a tree to worship Him. And that's where if this is existing as per the Lord's laws in creation, and at some higher level also, right? This, between offering this flower, right, and offering yourself to the Lord, which one is higher? I tell you, don't offer the flowers. But you have to remember that. You have to remember, this is supposed to lead to that. This is supposed to lead to that where, God, I know this has come from you, and I'm offering back to you. And at some point in time, all my actions, once is without desire prompted, and that's another, which we'll deal with in another word. Because I will need to leave this word in a second in order to cover the other days. Binu Satsanga Viveka na hoi, Ram kripa binu sulabana soi. Ram Siya Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Bolo Ram. Siya Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Binu, without satsanga, association with good company. Viveka na hui, one doesn't have proper discrimination. So whenever there's an opportunity to discuss the truisms in the universe, the things that makes the universe function how they are, that make us connect to our own self. And we'll know when we are discussing higher values that allows us to connect with our own self and connect with the society. Whichever religion it belongs to, there are universal values of love, of compassion, of non-violence, of right conduct. So there are areas, samanya dharma, general dharma, that is equal to all humanity. So, with proper association, we know how to think and to put these particular things into context. For instance, I just want to, in terms of the same Viveka, right? One of my students would have not have electricity at home the prior night, and he comes with his homework incompleted. I have him on a Monday, right? And then I have him again on a Tuesday. He's a Form 2 student, so he's of the age of 13 or 14. Compassion is what in that case? What is compassion for that student? If you're a student, your vision of compassion will say, well, leave your work, Nasser. Don't worry about it, right? But suppose that topic, right, is a topic that has the ability, suppose the topic is non-violence, right? And he comes from a home where there's abuse of any sort at home, right? Is it compassion to not allow him to do the homework? Or is it compassion to give him one more day and kick him out of the class the next time if he doesn't do the homework, and unless his mother writes an apology, then allow him to end up in class? So even the practice of the value has to also be in a particular construct that allows for the evolution of somebody else. So for instance, this is a recent example. A guy borrowed $70 from me last 10 days or something, right? And then yesterday he come and he tell me what the $30 borrow, you really can't manage thing hard, right? And then today I got some information. The last time when he borrowed money, he went and buy a little something so in the grocery. A little something so, and he had a good time. So what is it that I am supposed to give or lend to encourage some habit that then fosters some negative trait. And that's where every value has to be seen in its proper context as well. So, the importance of, and then things are also not very clear in any particular situation as well. So, in chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, 26 values are given, right? So those 26 values at any point in time, abhayam, satvasam, shuddhi, jnani, yoga, vivastihi, danam, damasya, yajnasya, swadhyaya, tapa, arjavam, etc., right? All those things are given. I say arjavam, which means straightforwardness, right? That is so much needed in our everyday life and also in the life of our nation and our politicians as well, right? So some of these values are so straightforward in its application, right? Then, satsang is important. After satsang happens, the next step after satsang is what? I want somebody to guess. Anybody? What is supposed to happen? Yes, which falls under what word starting with S? Looking for a Sanskrit word. Yes, play fill in the blanks. Yeah. What? Smaranam. Oh, that's also a very nice one. But that's the next S. I'm gonna write that in. Sadhana, nitya sadhana. Sadhana, kanda sadhana. There's a very nice song that the Hindu Swayam Sevak sing, right? And if you understand that one line, sadhana, nitya sadhana, perform sadhana. Always perform sadhana. Akanda sadhana. Make it in a circle without any particular stop. Then what is sadhana? In one, you gave the word now. You bring to the next point now. You have to give one English word that correctly connotes or coins what is the meaning of sadhana. In the broadest sense you can think about. See, that is when I look at a teacher to teach. 2 words. What is that? Yes, spiritual practices is a spiritual disciplines. So anything that you perform on a regular basis and you perform it for with a higher vision in mind, that is considered to be sadhana. And you know, one of the most beautiful things about being a Sanatanist or a Hindu or one whose life is based on the Vedas, your sadhana don't have to be like anybody else's sadhana. And that's why Shabadi's Katha is so beautiful. You know why? Option A. How many expressions of devotion was given by Sri Ram to Shabadi? Expressions means methods or ways by which devotion can be developed and eventually reach the pinnacle of devotion. Any idea? A, 18. B, 6. C, sometimes forget the option, I'll give to 9. And D, 5. 9 is correct. And the first says, Pratama Bhagati Santana Karasanga Dusarirati Mama Kata Prasanga Ram Siya Ram Siya Ram Jai Jai Ram Bolo. Associate with saints, the first one. Find some saint some way. And I'll tell you, right? Every religion of the world, every country of the world, every ethnic group, whether you believe it or not, has to have saints. Because at the spectrum of any society, there are those that are at this level and there are those that are at that level. However they reach there, it may not be systematic or we may not see it. But because we are not absorbed, and there's one thing, we haven't learned to absorb ourselves in other cultures. And even though, we have a cultural expression, but it is foolhardy of us to believe that in any other cultural expression, there isn't the sainthood, or the concept of Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta, Mukta means liberated. Jivan means while living, that person is liberated. Means all limitations is removed from that person's personality. So if I have a disposition, right, to get up every morning and light my diya and offer flowers, right, that is my sadhana. If somebody has a disposition of sitting down and singing the name of the Lord, right, Panduranga Vittale Hari Narayana, Panduranga Vittale Hari Narayana, Hari Narayana Bhajanarayana, or somebody has the disposition of wherever they go, they just see the Lord in everybody. So that person is not picking up a pen, that person is not picking up a paper, that person is not doing puja, that person is not performing any ritual. But every single way they go, Siya Ram Mai Sab Jag Jani Karahu Pranam Jori Jori Jogapani Ram Siya Ram Jai Jai Ram Bolo. Siya Ram Mai Sab Jagajani. Everywhere I go, I see Sita and Ram in everybody. That is also sadhana also. Also, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the same thing is said, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. The Lord is everywhere. The same exact Lord is there in every single being. One other is that Guru Parapankaj Seva Tisri Bhagati Aman. You serve the feet of your Guru. And with that in mind, there's also serving your parents as well. If you study the life of Shravan Kumar, and I think every Hindu should study Shravan Kumar's life because it's really a beacon of light for one who has that type of responsibility. And recently, I attended some satsang where the father of the home was ill for some time as well. But those children of that home, very religious, involved in religion also, spirituality as well. But they left no stone unturned to do what was necessary. And a certain strength of character comes from doing your duty. A certain fearlessness comes from doing your duty. A certain purity of mind, chitta shuddhi, comes from doing your duty. And wherever you are placed, once you do your duty, you're supposed to have a great amount of peace of mind. So, first, sangha. Be careful of your sangha. Next, sadhana. Of course, one type of sadhana, serving your parents, serving the elders, serving your guests as God. Matri Devo Bhava, Pitri Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. Then serve the Guru as God. Then also do puja, sing the name of the Lord, read some scriptures, praise the Lord, right? So those are methods of sadhana. And also, I know in the past Hollywood I go to buffet and thing, right? You and Harshan, right? And even though you are from the same genetic makeup, you like different things in the buffet also. And one of you will finish eating very quickly and go back for our next plate. And one of you go say, boy, let me settle this thing and I'll go back just now, right? Similarly, exactly how we eat is exactly how spirituality should be given. And that's why it's important to have a context of spirituality also. Because even though we are two people from the same home, with the same cultural upbringing, we take things differently according to how our dispositions are. Because of who we are. And that's one of the reasons that the Western system of education is failing. Because we want every single child to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a teacher, to be an engineer. Now, I'm not saying that those are not noble professions, right? But what about the farmer that makes $30,000 a month and nobody ever sees him? Nobody considers that. So that is not a job then. When it is that an electrician, right? He works and nobody sees what he does and he has no title behind his name and he does what he has to do quietly. Isn't it a noble profession as well? So the context of understanding success has to be based on each jiva's relationship with the world, his own swabhava, his own disposition and his calling. Because everybody's made for something else. And when it is that you understand that, then your savor in the world, which brings us to our next S, or savor in the world becomes so different. Because I'll tell you, I know people who will come 10 minutes before the yajna, sweep out the whole yajna shala, pack the prasad and everything, pack the food and everything, and you see 1 minute to 7, them going on one song in their hammock and listen to it on the radio. Because their disposition doesn't allow them to be in the public space for very long. They don't like that. It is not what they enjoy doing. So what has to happen is that according to your disposition, you need to grow in spirituality. So you have to find some path, and that's why the part of Bhakti Yoga is there, the part of Karma Yoga is there, the part of Jnana Yoga is there, the part of Raja Yoga is there, Raja Yoga meditation, Karma Yoga through offering all the actions to God, Bhakti Yoga through the practice of devotion towards the Lord, Jnana Yoga through the part of contemplation. And that's another thing also, as a sadhak, some things drop out to allow for other things to happen. And in your seva also, one of the most important things in seva is that your seva actually goes through different levels. So you may be doing one thing at seva right now, and then you may feel fulfilled in doing that, and then you need to do something else. One aspect of seva that really needs some work in Trinidad is the research aspect of religion. Meaning, even if you're not becoming a Pundit, or you're not becoming a Swami, what this term means in all its broadness and the context. What does the word karma mean? What does the word guna mean? What does the word dharma mean? What does the word... So there are 3 different types of karma, right? Sanchit karma, which is stored karma, agami karma, and prarabdha karma. And these words, right, because they are, even you hear so many times when Hindu people, religious people, I don't want to give a particular title, but they are speaking on scriptures and they say, "Gone back to Mecca," right? But that is not a Hindu, he's resting in peace. So when it is that we have understood our own religion from another context, so Sanskrit is the basis of our culture, and when we use English to interpret Sanskrit, and it's being interpreted by those who don't understand etymology and syntax, and then they translate it back for us, and we use those words, what we do is we don't do justice to scriptures. So one aspect, of course, is reflection on that for what it means to me. But one other aspect of that is proper research and knowing what, and that's where Chinmaya International Foundation is doing a fantastic job, fabulous job at that, where they are going into all the scriptures. And, I once heard one Mahatma say, you don't have to take sides, You say that there is the Vaishnava tradition, there's the Shaivite tradition, there's the Ganapatya tradition, there's the Adi Shankaracharya, which is known as smarta tradition, right? So there are different traditions. This is what this tradition says, 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 and this is what I believe. This is my belief based on these different views provided by scriptural thought. And that's which brings me to the next point, which is Swadhyaya. We have to study our scriptures. Why I say that, right? Suppose I come and tell you that the bowl is full, right? Shri Krishna Bhagwan said the bowl is full, Arjuna Bhagwan ki jai. And I go back with that, right? And the Baba says so. And then, so Abhay buys a bowl, right? Because the Baba said the bowl could become full, right? So Abhay buys a bowl and Abhay starts taking care of the bowl because Abhay wants to get milk from the bowl also. Because he really has faith in what the Baba says. I'm not saying you don't have faith in the Baba, But Swami Chinmayananda said one nice thing. He said, the longer the beard, the greater the suspicion. And that was only to mean to say, when something is said in scriptures, let it be able to be verified. Just don't take it for what has been said. And if it is that the person is unable to do so, there should be people who would be more versed and able to answer your question. So let's track back for a little bit, right? Sangha is important. Be careful who you associate with. Whoever you are is because of your past association. Wherever you need to be is because of that type of association. In the Hanuman Chalisa, the word Sumati is given, the word Kumati is there. Sumati ke sangi, may my mind be in noble thoughts, and my mind remove ignoble thoughts. So, Sangha is important, Satsang is important in our traditional sense. We invite an Acharya, a Pundit, a Swami, we have a discussion. Satsang also could be you take a zabuka for the Swami. You say, Swami, I have a question, give me 5 minutes at a time. What are you doing there? Change that tiny jeep, I go, hold on. You want me to help you with the tire, and then we have a discussion. That also is Satsang. So let us not restrict Satsang to just being one type. Well, Satsang will only be possible when you have $1,500 in the bank and you're able to buy chana and get somebody to come and make the parasat and those sort of things, right? Which we also have to notice how, because if you have a question, and that's what satsang is, I have a question and I meet my guru, most times you meet because then you can understand the communication, non-verbal communication, you can understand what is being said beyond the words. So even this online thing is secondary. Hopefully by Bhagwan's grace, we get back to a stage where we are able to be together and be able to understand scriptures in that sense. So, Sangha, Satsanga, is supposed to lead you to understanding your sadhana and varieties of sadhana. And then after you understand your sadhana, you should research your sadhana. How can I refine my sadhana? And it's like somebody who starts to do construction, right? Because I see somebody, my father put up a wall and I put up my wall. And I never go and do any research of how to put up a wall, how deep down. So, Abhay's father would have seen his father put up a wall. So he decided to put up a wall. But then Abhay now, because he have this internet and he's seen everything online, he go on and he says how much feet down it should be. So he does research to put up his wall. So he has a firm basis of why it should be done in this particular way, the process of doing also, and the benefits of doing. And in this day and age, I don't think anybody should have problems in doing 16 steps of puja for their own self, for their own murti. Simple. Om Shri Hanumati Namaha, Avahayami, come. Om Shri Hanumati Namaha, Asanam Samarpayami, take a seat. Om Shri Hanumati Namaha, Padyam Samarpayami, wash your feet. So every Hindu home is supposed to understand the context and what they perform and also the limitations of that sadhana. Every sadhana has a limit. It has so much that it can bring into your life. So, for instance, if you're doing Havan, Havan could bring you purity of mind. But Havan is not going to remove in your mind the feeling that I am the body. Or the feeling that because so many times I've seen also, you say, boy, what should I Havana, man? That is an image of the Lord in that picture. You seen it? And the ego is there only, nah? When you perform Havan and afterwards if the ego is there, that is Rajasic Havan, right? And the second thing is that is not the purpose of it only. The purpose of it is to surrender actions to God, to gain purity of mind. And then, so Havan doesn't have the ability to remove your ignorance. Havan has the ability to bring you closer to your Ishta Devta. Havan has the ability to allow you to any type of ritual, because it's a kriya. You're doing an action, a result will come. Any result that comes is finite because it is done in space and time, and a finite action cannot bring an infinite result. So, cause and effect relationships needs to be identified. Then there's one other thing. By doing satsang and performing seva for the guru, etc., and serving the society and feeling the sense of oneness with all, our faith in our path and our faith in ourselves and our faith in scripture is supposed to be more firm. I'm supposed to believe in my ability that if I sit down here and pray and I call on Hanuman Baba will come. That is the faith, and that's why a Hindu doesn't need a sense of agency to pray to God. Let the Baba go, it's okay, I go pray. The Baba run late from a prayers, he can't come, all right, I sit down and do my prayers. Nothing is wrong with that. If the Baba is not able to come and he fell a flood out because everywhere these days having flood, I nearly call her to see if up here flood. And I say, well, all do all the satsang. And that is okay also because you have to be empowered as Hindus as well, right? So one of the things also is that these all things are supposed to also lead to sankalpas. Very important. You have to make a firm resolve that I am going to perform this particular thing. I'm taking a resolve. Like I know Swamiji said that his grandfather had a particular, he used to do one puja for the day, right? One puja, only one puja, always for the day, one puja for the day. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I know during Diwali time and Navaratri time, I try to do it already, and I try to do 13 puja for the day, right? That was my sankalpa. Somebody was sick, I was helping them out, and I ended up trying to do 13 pujas for the day. Swamiji's grandfather also, who was a Pundit as well, he had a sankalpa that until 12 o'clock in the midday, he wasn't to eat nothing. One meal for the day. Swamiji currently has a sankalpa that he doesn't eat anything in the morning, only a fruit in the morning time, right? So, or some families have a sankalpa that they are going to do this prayers of this deity every single year for as long as they live. Because that's that family, that, so the worship of Keswanti Gayatri, she would have been born by the tapas of Hanuman Baba. Your sankalpa is that for the till the end of your life. You, that's not saying that is it there, but I'm saying the possibility can exist where you can take a sankalpa like that, where you are going to do something like that. Or some grandparents would have built some particular temple, and that their sankalpa is that they're going to assist with that particular temple. What that sankalpa does, right, is it creates in the devotee a firmness in his resolve to worldly things. And then that is supposed to also allow us to have some firmness in resolve. I just say something that I need to be mindful of. I said worldly things, right? And from the perspective of the great acharyas of the past, everything else but moksha is considered to be a bit on the worldly side. Meaning to say that everything else that doesn't bring eternal happiness, everything that doesn't make you ask the question of your connection with the eternal source, is considered to be a bit on the worldly side. It means to say that everything we are doing is supposed to be divinized to make us to a state of asking, how can I attain eternal happiness from where I am? And how can I be happy without any particular object or any particular person? And how can I reach the stage of realizing that I am the source of my own happiness? And until we discover that, right? Punarapi, punarapi, again and again. We'll come and we'll go. So, no worries. We'll eventually get it. So, in closing, I want to ask for Shri Krishna's grace and blessings on the father of the home. And the father would have done his own punya karma, which he will be gaining the sukha or the joy, and he will be on his journey. You are just doing your nitya karma, which is your duty, which will bring chitta shuddhi, which purity of mind, and peace of mind. Those two things a sadhak is supposed to have. Peace of mind is one important thing. If you're a sadhak on the path, Baba, oh shit, this last thing to do before I turn the Hanuman Chalisa. When we went temple long time, right? Me and my brother used to come back home, and right after we used to come back home and quarrel because one wanted to watch channel 4, channel 6, whatever it had Sitara and thing in TV in that time, right? Sitara and some other program was there on channel 6, right? And what we wanted to watch one and we wanted to watch the other. My mother was to say a simple thing. She said if all you had to go temple, right? And let it get on so when you come back from temple, right? It's best all thing going away. And that is true, right? Remember the purpose of spirituality and the purpose of religion and the purpose of culture. Besides from a refinement in our own personality and adding value to the society at large, is supposed to be peace at mind. And if as a sadhak you're not peaceful in mind, then something somewhere, some screw in the title, something need to check back, something needs to be adjusted somewhere along the line. So maybe have that peace of mind of knowing that we have done our duty to the best of our ability, and let us always ask that. And that conversation is your conversation with God. God, wherever my physical parents will be, as they are manifestations of your gift given to me, may they be happy. May they be peaceful. May they get a good satgati on their onward journey. And so that's your prayer to the Lord. And one of the most important things to remember is that though there may be many currencies in the world, right? The currency of love between a devotee and Bhagwan is something that Bhagwan understands without even words also. You don't have to ask for nothing. When you stand up in front of God, you talk to God, heart to heart, and that's where your relationship is. So, with my heart to Bhagwan's heart, if I have performed any mistake, I ask for the Lord's grace and blessings. I do ask that may we get more opportunities for good sangha, satsanga, seva. May our faith in God increase, shraddha. May we start to study our scriptures and be firm as Hindus in our beliefs, that we have to depend on anybody else. And then may that sadhana fructify in our moksha. Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja Nijamana Mukura Sudari Varano Raghuvar Bimala Jasu Jodayaka Palachari Buddhihina Tanujanike Sumiro Pavana Kumar Balaburi Vidya Dehu Mohi Harhu Kalesha Vikaram. Jai Hanuman, Jai Hanuman, Jai Bajranga Bali Hanuman. Jaya Hanuman Jnana Guna Sagar, Jaya Kapish Tinhu Loka Ujagar. Ramaduta Tulita Baladama, Anjani Putra Pavan Sutanama. Mahavira Vikram Bajrangi, Kumati Nivar Sumati Ke Sangi. Kanchana Varana Viraj Suvesha, Kanan Kundala Kunchita Kesha. Jaya Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Jaya Raghunandana, Jai Siya Ram. Hata Vajra Dvaja Viraje, Kande Muja Jane Usaje. Shankar Suvana Kesari Nandan, Teja Pratap Maha Jagavandan. Jaya Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Jaya Raghunandana, Jai Siya Ram. विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर, राम काज करिबे को आतुर. प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया, राम लखन सीता मन बसिया. सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, बिकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा. भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, रामचंद्र के काज सवारे. जय जय राम, जय जय राम, जय रघुनंदन, जय सिया राम. लाय सजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए. रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बराए, तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही समबाई. सहस वदन तुमरो यश गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे. जय जय राम, जय जय राम, जय रघुनंदन, जय सिया राम. सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीषा, नारद शारद सहित अहीसा. यम को वेद दिक्पाल जहाते, कवि को वेद कहि सके कहाते. तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा, राम मिलाय राज पर दीन्हा. जय जय राम, जय जय राम, जय रघुनंदन, जय सिया राम. तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना. युग सहस्त्र यो जन पर भानु, लीलोताहि मधुर पल जानु. प्रभु मुद्रिका मिली मुख माही, जलदिलांगी गई असर जनाही दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुमरे तेते जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज समारु आपै तीनों लोक हाट के कापै भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम नाशे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट ते हनुमान छुरावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन पल पावे जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम चारों युग परताप तुम्हारा है पर सिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुमरे पासा सरारो रघुपति के दासा जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम तुमरे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाए और देवता चेतन धरई हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करई संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम हनुमान गुसाई कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाही जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई जोट ही बंदी महासुख होई जो यह पर हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साकी गौरी सा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जय नाथ हृदय महादेरा जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम जय जय राम जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम पवन तनय संकट हरना मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसौ सुरभूप सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, श्री सत्य सनातन धर्म की jai. I want to tell you one thing, right? Going through the Hanuman Chalisa just now, 2-3 more words came. While I chanting the Hanuman Chalisa, S as samskara, the importance of samskara. S as sadhu, life, how our parents lived. They may not have much, right? But they lived a sadhu lifestyle. And if you could go through your life living a noble life, your destination going on is secure. And one thing, Siddhi will eventually come. Don't worry, everybody goes, the tortoise goes at his pace, and also the hare goes at their pace also. Siddhi will eventually come. If your heart is pure and you're doing it from the correct place, Siddhi will come by God's grace. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to sing the Hanuman Chalisa. And I see the next word here, Sukshma. When you make yourself small, right? You need to make yourself small in front of your elders, in front of the respected and educated people who have your welfare at heart, and your success, English S, your success will be guaranteed. You see, it's very easy to have a great amount of sukha in scriptures also. You just have to develop it for your own self and continuously keep going back. Sit down with the same Ramayana and go over the same Katha and see what comes again and again. And there are moments when you know whatever comes didn't come by you. You became an instrument for whatever to come. Siyavar Ramachandra ki jai, Tumeva Mata, Chapita Tumeva, Tumeva Bandhushcha Saka Tumeva, Tumeva Vidya Dravinam Tumeva, Tumeva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Take the form of your parents in your mind. Touch the feet of your parents, your elders, your guru. Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. Om Tat Sat Brahma Arpanam Astu.